Am I audible, Vani? Sir, engineer sir.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, sir. Right. Thank you, sir.
So we can start, sir. It is
Okay.
10:30 now.
Yes. I'll start with the first question, but you have to go to the first question. Yeah, the first question was writing an outcome with the use of AI tools is the right process, and is it valid when we go through any type of accreditation like NBA, NAC, etc. So the whole thing is writing a course outcome is a kind of, it has to be done carefully, and generally it takes plenty of time to write an outcome the proper way. So one can certainly take AI tool, but you cannot just use the statement given by the AI tool. You have to find out. Especially using AI tool is convenient when you want to write an outcome that addresses your designated or whatever you want to address POs. Let's say I want to address PO6 and PO7 or PO6 and PO8. Now I have the content with me, but how do I frame the outcome? You can take the help of AI, but you have to edit. You cannot just produce and say, what can I do? It is AI tool that has given me. So if you take care of that, it is justifiable. Does it answer your question, please? Okay, then we'll move to next one. So right. As per NBA, there are 12 POs, and in your slide mentioned that number of POs is 11. Please clear this issue. Yes, the NBA was using 12 POs until the beginning of 2025. When they reformed it, that they felt two POs were very close to one another. There is no need for an extra one. So they reduced it to 11. So 11 is the currently operative number for POs. Yes, the next one, please. Okay, how to differentiate between technology, engineering, and science? Yes, one can go through a very elaborate process of fine-tuning that, but broadly, if you start with science, science is concerned with discovering laws of nature. That's its main purpose. Who decides what to work on or what aspects to be looked on, what kind of laws that you're trying to discover, that is a different issue. But the main goal of science is to discover the laws of science, the laws of nature. Whereas engineering is concerned with designing artifacts, which can be products, processes, that contribute to the welfare of humanity. So the focus is on developing the products. Normally, when you develop a product, an artifact, you use all the existing body of knowledge that is available to you. It can come from science, it can come from engineering, it can come from many other things. But the entire scientific knowledge that is required for that may not be available when you are designing an artifact. But the focus of engineering is to develop an artifact and possibly manufacture it. Whereas technology is concerned with the industrial processes that are used to manufacture something. Like, for example, you take concrete technology. What do you use it for? That is decided by something else. But technology is how to make concrete. That also uses the scientific knowledge. Equipment for making that concrete is designed by engineering activity. Similarly, you have any number of technologies. Steel making is a technology, or magnetic storage is a technology, and so on. So technology is something that allows you to manufacture something or provide some services. That is the difference between these three. Next one, please. Can performance indicators, PI, suggested by AICT examination reforms document can be used for determining strength of CO, PO, PSO mapping? Some experts suggesting this, but it is very time consuming. I'm not very clear. Professor Rajinikanth, can you answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, performance indicators have been suggested by AICT as well as some other experts working on accreditation. But as you rightly observed, it is a very time-consuming process. So it is not very clear to many to what extent the performance indicators would be really useful, because the length to which one has to go to determine this is quite complex. So you can, if you wish, but much simpler methods exist for doing the mapping based on the phrases that you find in CO and the PO. In fact, performance indicator is nothing but identifying those phrases in a more tabular fashion, but otherwise it's the same. So while it can be done, probably it is too much of a time-consuming activity to do that. So one could go for CO, PO strength determination based on what we suggested in our slides. Okay. Yeah.
In continuous assessment, one can have a class test and assignment. Class test is done in a proctored mode, and assignment is a takeaway. We found that the students are copying and using AI tools to solve assignments. Can we have just class test in continuous assessment? This is age-old question. It is not anything new, because assignments, when they're given, whether you use AI tools or not, people copy from one another. But that is in our opinion, that is no reason to completely get rid of that, because assignments serve some other purpose other than class tests. Class tests are, you have to give in a given limited amount of time, a limited number of questions, and again you have to distribute over 1 mark, 2 mark, and that kind of thing. There are certain restrictions, but it serves its purpose. But coming to assignments, you can give something lengthy. And how do you overcome this copying is a different issue. We can create, it requires a little more planning on the spending more time on the part of the faculty. You can give different assignments to different people, because we can also talk about group assignments, which can be a longer issue. So when you want to address some of the POs, you can only achieve that, or even if you want to address higher orders of learning, like analyze, evaluate, and all that, the problems will be long. And if you have a collection of problems, possibly you can give different things to different people. Yes, AI tools can be used to solve. Again, you have to address this particular problem, and I at least I don't have a specific solution how do you bypass if somebody uses AI tools. Professor Rajnikant, you want to add?
No, just one. Some of the techniques that people have tried, including in IIC and other places, IIIT, is to provide the answer that typically AI tools give, like ChatGPT or any of Gemini or anything, two, three answers typically. And they say this is the answer you get if you use an AI tool. Now give your own answer, not this. So
Yeah.
the kind of forces at least the person to think whether that answer, how it can be modified, etc. This is one thing that they have been trying. Two is more at a organizational level. There has been pressure on the AI tool developers to provide some kind of a watermarking when the tool is used. Still, they have not reached an agreement, but that is going on now. Because of several security concerns, they are suggesting that any use of AI tool should provide a watermark. Then you will immediately know that you have used AI. So that is one, but that is a long-term solution. Meanwhile, you can try this, providing a AI solution and then saying that do something else. Okay. Yeah.
Next one, please. Why only summative assessment be considered in attainment? Formative assessment is also important component of evaluation and evaluation and NEP. Please comment. Okay, I don't know what NEP has to do with this. The moment formative assessment is included, it becomes summative assessment. The very definition of formative assessment is you use that as a means of learning, not put any pressure on the learner that he has to score something. Now, the moment you add those marks, the whole thing shifts, because at every point the student is trying to optimize or maximize his marks. So, but by very definition, formative assessment, you cannot add marks to the for final grade. The moment you do that, it's a part of summative assessment. Next one, please. Some experts suggest to use performance indicators suggested by AICTE examination reforms policy for mapping strength rather than number of contact hours. Mapping with PIs is very hectic and time consuming. Please advise.
We already answered this. No?
Yes. If you want to add anything else regarding
No, sir. Nothing.
yeah. The Peirce Gray taxonomy of psychomotor domain is based primarily on hierarchy of actions. Is it not the correct answer? Sorry, I can't. Based on primarily hierarchy of actions. Yes, there is a hierarchy in the Peirce Gray taxonomy of psychomotor. That is true. What is the question? Is it not the correct answer? Is it again some question in the assignment? Yeah, it's not clear what is the specific point that is being made.
If that present is person is present, can you clarify, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have this answer wrong, mark this wrong. So I just wanted to know that the Pearson Gate taxonomy, whether it is hierarchy or action, or the other answer which I got it right here, according to like the degree of cognition required.
Sorry, we can't, at least I can't clearly understand or can't make out.
சார் அந்த இது போயிட்டு இருக்கு பாத்தீங்களா Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to know that whether this question for the fifth assignment, the Pearson Gray taxonomy, is on hierarchy of action is the right answer, or degree of cognition required, because I see both of them is right.
Hierarchy of actions. See, we don't use the word action, we will
Okay.
call it as the process. Okay.
Okay.
Like you have cognitive processes with respect to Pierce Gray taxonomy also, these are the processes. And
Yeah.
they are organized in a hierarchical way similar to that of cognitive domain or the Bloom's taxonomy cognitive processes. That is the feature of Pierce Gray taxonomy.
Okay, so you mean to say that degree of cognition required is the answer, because degree of cognition is the degree of thinking, right? But the thinking also it happens by a hierarchy.
Okay, what it means, the Pierce Gray, what they have done is, they said there is certain amount of cognition whenever you do either psychomotor activity or the affective domain activity. And they have organized in such a way at certain levels like psychomotor create or affective create, you use there is a higher level of cognitive activity involved. Okay, the cognitive level associated with that particular psychomotor activity is the determining factor to adjust the hierarchy. That is the idea. That is
Okay,
what they have
okay,
done.
okay. I understand. Taxonomy of the psychomotor domain alone.
As well as taxonomy of affective domain as well. The degree of cognitive activity involved.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering the question.
Yeah, next one, please. Kindly let me know the correct process for covering the COs. Should it be unit wise or level wise as per Bloom's taxonomy levels? I think we have stated this number of times. Unitization of syllabus had another history. We will not debate whether it was right or wrong, but COs have strictly nothing to do with unitization, because all COs, to address them, because it is decided by you to what depth you want to deal with a particular topic. Sometimes you want the students to get what do you call introductory aspects only. Then in that case you will spend less amount of time. Whereas certain things which you consider very important, you spend more time in explaining this or make students solve more problems and so on. So the number of classroom sessions that you use are different and decided by the faculty member. So you mentally or otherwise you should delink units from the COs. CO is a different way of looking at your content. Unit is a different way of looking at your content. That was practiced earlier, but it doesn't make sense now to follow in the new context where Bloom's taxonomy is implicitly followed. Yes. Please light up on challenges of implementing OBE.
Just 1 second, previous one, I would like to add
Yes.
that all the internal tests put together should address all the COs. That is the only requirement. Because when you want to compute the attainment of a CO, you need the performance of the students with respect to that CO. That means it must have been covered in some test or some other kind of internal assessment or assignment somewhere. Basically, there must be data available to compute the attainment of a CO, which means that it must be addressed by some kind of internal assessment mechanism. Whether it is a test or assignment, that is up to you. And if the CO is at one level of Bloom's taxonomy, as Sir has discussed in the sessions also, ideally the assessment should be at the same level. But occasionally you may do assessment at one level lower. But essentially you should address that in some form or other so that data is available to compute the attainment of a CO. Thank you.
Challenges of implementing OBE. In my opinion, the most important one is mindset change. You should be willing to, both the management and faculty at the department level should be willing to look at that OBE can provide a framework for you to plan your instruction, plan your assessment, and generally improve the quality of learning in the learning by the students. First of all, first challenge comes, you have to, first step is to write course outcomes. Actually, according to OBE, you don't start with topics at all. You have to start only with COs. Can you write CO in such a way? First decide what POs you want to address, and then write your, because you know the subject content, to what extent you want to address each one, to what depth, all that should get reflected in the CO. Just for convenience, you may convert that into a list of topics for some other reason. But right now, because of our decades of practice, we start always with the list of topics. And it is difficult for faculty or even boards of studies to give up that route that you start with, okay, what do you want to teach? You generally go towards, take a textbook and decide what chapters you want to address. And from the chapters, you try to look at the sections and prepare a list of topics. Strictly according to OBE, that is not the route. You start, okay, you take the guidance of the chapters, but at each stage you decide what you want the student to be able to do. That you express it as a first level CO. Having written a set of COs, the next challenge comes, are we able to, the way I have written, is it able to address the whatever set of POs you want to address? Are you able to do that or not? So it requires a little bit of a few iterations and possibly a, two or three faculty members can sit together on the same course and then modify the, what you call, rework out the CO statements. The more clarity and specificity you can bring to the CO, it will be better for the students as well. That is the first challenge. Next challenge is how do you design your assessments which are in alignment with the COs that you have written. Normally what we do, we design our assessments, that is both the tests, final exam and assignments and all that, not keeping the cognitive levels that you want to address. Something on the topic. That is not the issue. With OBE, you have to design your assessments in such a way, the in whatever manner that you have written your COs and whatever cognitive levels that are implied by that, your assessment should be in alignment with that. That is a challenge. The next level challenge is having designed the assessments and written the COs. Now, what do I do in the classroom or in my interaction with the students, that I am preparing the students for performing well with regard to those assessments. That means now I want to bring in the instruction in alignment with COs as well as assessment. That is a challenge. That's why most important one is mindset. That is the biggest challenge, because people are used to for a very, very long time doing it in a different way. Some people are able to do intuitively better. Some people, most of the times we find there is not much alignment between the three. So why leave it to chance occurrence? Why not go through a systematic process? And for that, OBE is the framework, best possible framework. Professor Rajnikant, do you want to add something?
No, sir, that is fairly comprehensive. Alignment between all these three, the instruction, the assessment, and the CO itself. Of course, we start with CO, then assessment, and then instruction. They all must be. And of course, some people are fond of calling this as constructive alignment, but that doesn't add anything of value to what we are implying. But essentially, what we need is that all these three should be aligned to each other. That is the only thing.
And that has been the goal of education for a very, very long time. It is not anything new. Okay, concept of alignment, to my literature survey, has been around for more than 50, 60 years. What are the pillars and principles of OBE? Just now, whatever we stated. Writing right kind of COs and designing assessment and instruction in alignment with those COs. Well, let me read. To my knowledge, the correct answer is procedural knowledge, but in the key it is mentioned as metacognitive. Okay, now we understand the question. We are familiar with that. Now, partly it is our fault that we should have what do you call, reviewed that question a little more. But the issue is like this. It can be justified as metacognitive as well as justified as procedural. That's why officially we are withdrawing that question. That means nobody will get penalized for that. Why it can be metacognitive is, first of all, before I apply the procedure, I should know whether I know that procedure or not. If I think I know the procedure and not able to implement, that means your metacognition is poor. Same thing about strategies. Do I know how I should be going about doing this? Do I have the right kind of strategy for me to answer or respond to that particular question? If you look at it that way, it becomes metacognitive. But otherwise, whether I can apply the procedure or not, whether I can exactly perform all the steps, uh, is procedural knowledge. And also, what procedure to apply, if you call that as a strategy, then it is also procedural knowledge. So there is a bit of what do you call, I won't call it confusion, vagueness, lack of specificity in the question. We will withdraw that. That's why you people had these doubts, which is justified. So that's what we are planning to do. Withdraw the question. Interesting one. What is outcome-based education? We thought the whole course its title itself is OBE and Accreditation. Outcome-based education means you are defining what the student should be able to do at the end of a course or an instructional unit or even at the end of your program. What the student should be able to do. If you can clearly articulate that and plan everything towards achieving that. How do you convert into multiple courses? How do you, each course, how do you design? Or each instructional unit, how do you design? All that follows from that. Basic definition is what the student should be able to do at the end of an instructional unit. An instructional unit can be, or instructional experience, you can say. It can be a unit of instruction, like 2-3 hours, or it can be a one semester course, or it could be entire program itself. What is the importance of WK1 to WK9? Should they be mapped with COs? Okay, what happened is, if you go back in what the Washington Accord is looking at, Washington Accord defines certain references, and these are implemented or used differently by different countries, because they said it is in the spirit of what the Washington Accord, people should plan their programs. Planning their programs would mean they can write their own what they call graduate attributes. Only in India we use the word program outcome. In all other places, they call them graduate attribute. The graduate attributes given as reference by the Washington Accord, in the spirit of them, each country can write its own, what do you call, graduate attributes. Just to get the alignment right, they have provided this WK1 to WK9. What NBA has done, they have exactly taken all the statements as given by Washington Accord as our program outcomes. That means the mapping of WK1, WK9 are implied already. And if you are able to design your courses, COs, using this PO1 to PO11, then you are automatically in alignment with WK1 and WK9. And if you look at each PO as given, it has different levels also. For example, PO1 says the goal is to solve complex engineering problems. Who solves complex engineering problems in Indian programs? That means you're solving some problems. Many times not even engineering problems. You're solving engineering science problems. These two are different. So every PO that you look at, you're addressing only a subset of activities implied by that PO. So, but it is implied by a PO, yes, it is great. Automatically WK1 to WK9 are addressed. That's why NBA doesn't insist that you you demonstrate that you are addressing WK1 to WK9. Because we have already taken, we have written, we have accepted the graduate attributes of Washington Accord as our POs.
Your tables show only mapping between CO and POs and PSOs. They don't show any mapping between COs and WK1 to WK9. Of course, in the process of determining the COs and all, you do take into account WK1 to W9. That is okay. But as I said, that is also partly implied by the POs themselves. So what basically you have to show as per the SAR is that you have to show the mapping of COs to POs and PSOs. That's all is required.
Polytechnic POs, NBA uses the word simple engineering problem at the place of complex, but they don't define it. Can you please guide? Okay. First of all, they're not expecting a, a student of Polytechnic program to address complex engineering problems. Okay, what is engineering problem? There is a difference between engineering science problem and engineering problem. Generally, most of the standard textbooks at the end of the chapter problems are predominantly engineering science problems. Not that they cannot include the engineering problems in that. Okay, if you only talk about so-called scientific principles, scientific concepts, how do you relationship between concepts and give problems related to that, then it becomes engineering science. But using in the same, what do you call, that knowledge, if you are able to address, let's say, a practical problem, like you talk about some fluid mechanics kind of thing, you teach them principles of fluid mechanics, but if you are trying to ask a student, give a pump and a piping network at multiple levels and ask them what is happening at such and such a point, then it becomes an engineering problem. Because you are now coming with several constraints, but you are applying the same principles that are taught. But now you are applying it to a more real world situation and expecting the student to solve. I hope that answers the question. Which activity best represents the executing level in the Pierce Gray taxonomy? Feeling vibration in a faulty machine, operating a CNC machine, tightening bolts using a torque wrench, creating a new tool. The question is, CNC machine isn't the correct answer, sir. Okay, operating a CNC machine requires different levels of skills and other multiple steps involved. But out of the four, if you look at the execute level, the straightforward answer is tightening the bolt using a torque wrench. Okay, you can somehow justify operating CNC machine, but if you have to give one answer out of these four as correct one, obviously that will be tightening bolts using a torque wrench. Whole idea of MCQs is that some answers are reasonably close, but not exact. Next one. Please define the requirements for a problem to be complex engineering problem. Please give examples. Okay. We have included that, we have presented that also. First of all, a complex engineering problem has several dimensions in terms of number of stakeholders, the context in which the problem is formulated, and there are generally several subsystems involved, not just one. Let's say, I'll give examples presently. It is not one small system. There are several subsystems involved in that. And there are multiple stakeholders. And there are no unique, obvious answers. So there are multiple answers possible. And again, to select a particular thing, you have to use several different criteria before you come up with what is the final solution to that. I think we have given examples like you plan, let's say, drinking water issue in a small town or in a small community. When you look at it, it is not just like one pump and a few pumps and a few pipelines. It means, first of all, you have to find out where the source is. How do you bring that water near the final destination? And then how do you treat that water before it becomes a water for drinking? And then how do you ensure that by the time it reaches the house and through your tap, it still retains the quality of the water? So you have so many stages involved in that. And at every stage, you have again multiple issues that address. For example, it can depend on the terrain, and it depends on the quality of the water. It depends on the people who maintain what their skill sets are, and so on. You can list any number of those issues. From all that, you have to find a solution. So you can have several examples, anything like a traffic control system in a city like Bangalore. Obviously, it's a very complex and it has never been solved. The fact that it has never been solved, it qualifies it to be a very complex engineering problem. Next one, please. Should separate course outcomes be formed for laboratory work? If laboratory course is an independent course, there are courses like that. Then you have to write, obviously, a set of COs. And the way you can, if you look at the kind of experiments that you are doing, they can be grouped together a little bit. And once they're grouped, 3 or 4 experiments constitute one, and you can write one CO for that. But if the laboratory course is a part of a theory course as well, that is, you have 3:0:1 kind of thing, or any other method like that, then in that case, the COs that you write for the entire course should also imply the laboratory work. Yeah, you can write independent COs for a laboratory course, not for laboratory work. What is the correct method to design curriculum? Shall we define COs and then design the curriculum, or design the curriculum, then frame COs? The word curriculum is generally understood in different contexts by different people. Curriculum can also refer to the content of a single course, whereas curriculum predominantly is used to represent an entire program, a 4-year program or a 3-year program. Okay, so either way, if you are looking at a program, you start at a different level. You start with your broadly what are the POs that because that is a requirement. POs have to be 18. And then you have for a program, it is subject specific, so you have PSOs. So your starting point is there are 3 elements. One is your vision and mission of the department. Then you have your POs and then PSOs. From there, the curriculum has to evolve. There may be, like for example, NBA or AICT says these curricular components should be there. So using all those restrictions, then you identify the courses. And you have to operate within the set of credits that you have, how you have distributed the credits. So the amount of time that you can spend on each course, all that will follow later. And once we come to a specific course, a course in our opinion, ideally should start with COs under all this constraint. That's why it all depends on, this is a typical issue with education at all, because it's not very clear what that word curriculum, in what context, in what way you are trying to use that. Because there is no one clear definition of the word curriculum. That is true of many words associated with education. Yes. As I'm completely new to OBE, from where I start learning process, please explain the step-by-step learning methodologies. Okay, the entire purpose of our this OBE and accreditation is precisely for that. So if you follow carefully that, and there are books on OBE, outcome-based education. There are several authors who have produced books. Our course may not be exactly in alignment with what has been presented there, but they will present what OBE is all about. So please read those books, any of the books that you can choose. There is one book by Divakaran. One Mr. Divakaran has written relatively recently, and I think he's modifying that because things have changed by the NBA. But his book you can start with that, or you can start with this. And I have one website called higheredu.org.in, which also explains many of these things. There are resource documents kept on that. You are welcome to freely download and make use of it. But again, they have not incorporated the recent changes that have been made by NBA, which we are hoping to do it in the next 2 or 3 months. Large number of students in class is one adverse factor in implementation of OBE. Can you suggest ways to tackle it in effective implementation? See, implementation of OBE to start with has nothing to do with size of the classroom. You can have a few hundred students also in a particular batch. Okay, OBE, what does it say? You write course outcomes, you design assessment in alignment with those course outcomes, and plan your instruction for that. At the instruction level, when the number of students is very large, you have to use certain instructional methods. Okay. And assessment wise, you have very large number of students. How do you evaluate the performance of the students? That takes time. This is where you can make use of some of the tools that are already available. Now that AI tools are there, you can also make use of them to perform some of those tasks. Now, one way of tackling large number of students is by using IT tools for that. But what we have been doing is, when you have large number of students, like a university conducting a centralized exam, you pull down the quality of assessment completely, because it has to be like you put a unrelated restriction, like a faculty member should correct 100 papers in a day. If you put like that, you're forcing everybody to do the wrong things. So make use of the technology, make the institutes a little more autonomous, then these two will take care of it. But then that kind of decision is not in anyone's hand. Yes, please. Any other questions? Categories of knowledge. Applied science is common, of science and engineering knowledge. How can we define technology, especially Bachelor of Engineering and Bachelor of Technology? Both are graduate level 4-year programs. First of all, let me answer the second one. There used to be some differentiation between BE and BTech. Then it slowly became a tradition. Like all IITs use the word tech, but it doesn't mean that they're focusing only on technology. The way I have defined earlier technology. There was only one institute, to my knowledge, in Kanpur. It is called HBTI. It is truly technology-oriented bachelor's program. They were mainly focusing on chemical technology, not chemical engineering, chemical technology. But that kind of programs are now not practiced, not that they're irrelevant, but it is not practiced anymore. But BE and BTech, these designations are used interchangeably. Now, categories of knowledge. Applied science is common. I do not understand what that sentence is. What that sentence implies. You have science, engineering science. Leave the word applied science. We don't like that at all, because that kind of misleads. You have science subjects, and you have engineering science subjects. Your engineering science subjects like thermodynamics or electromagnetic theory, any of that. Okay. And if you are referring to the particular unit that I was talking about, engineering, if you use the word applied science, you're almost implying the subset of science. Okay, when you use an extra adjective, then it is a part of science. Engineering is not part of science. Engineering is an independent activity, and there is a lot of intersection between science and engineering. That we agree, no problem. That what is common between the two, you can call that as applied science if you want. Is there any limitation on the number of COs to be written for a laboratory course? Any guidelines? we broadly said a 3-credit course can have about 6 COs. It can be, though personally I would like to call it as 7 plus or minus 1. About 6 is also part of that. Whereas laboratory course is generally 1 credit. So to that extent, if you reduce it, it will become maybe about 3. 3 will be about. If you want to make it 4, it is okay. Or if you want to make it 2, is also okay. For a 1 credit course. Could you suggest mapping of mapping PSO to first year courses? Maybe like C programming to ECE. Just a minute. Hello? Huh? Okay. Mapping of PSO to first year courses, maybe like C programming to ECE or mechanical program. Yes, also kindly give inputs of POs and PSOs target setting methods. You want me to repeat about how to set the targets? We have very clearly explained. Please reread that particular unit. And suggesting PSOs, that's why the new NBA accreditation mechanism, they've removed treating first year courses separately. They call it, now there is no criterion for that. So a first year course also can address PSO. I think, sorry, we need to rush because there is another program, another thing that follows at 11:30. Let me quickly answer the next one. PO1 to PO11 instead of 12 POs from which academic year. Now, if you want to submit now, from now on, you have to use 11 POs, but your accreditation application is in the process. Possibly they will accept 12 POs. Still one more. In autonomous institution, there will be no curriculum gap. Then in attainment, how to proceed to next batch of students? Clear. What do you mean by? Then in attainment, how to proceed to next batch of students? Yeah, there is no curriculum gap. That is a requirement of tier 2 institutions. Tier 1 institutions which are autonomous, there is no question of curriculum gap. And whatever you do this year, the same thing will have to be applied next year too. Next batch of students also. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation and attention.
Only thing is attainment levels you can try to increase next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for clarifications.
Thank you. So we can leave, Sudha?
Yes, sir.